On August 6th, 2011, a single rocket-propelled grenade fired from a desolate Afghan valley triggered the deadliest day in the history of the U.S. Navy SEALs. The downing of the helicopter, call sign Extortion 17, claimed the lives of 30 Americans, including many from the legendary SEAL Team 6. Among them was Chief Petty Officer Christopher Campbell, a veteran sniper, a quiet professional, and a man with a promise to keep. He had told his wife he would be home in time for their wedding anniversary. That promise and the life he fought for were gone in an instant. Left behind was a nation in mourning and a family shattered by loss and searching for answers. Today we tell the story of the man behind the uniform on that fateful flight. We will explore his life of unwavering service, his deep love for his family, and delve into the persistent, controversial questions surrounding the mission that prevented a husband and father from ever coming home. This is the story of Christopher Campbell and the enduring search for truth behind the tragedy of Extortion 17. To understand the final chapter of Christopher Campbell's life, we must place it in the context of the summer of 2011. The war in Afghanistan, sparked by the 9/11 attacks nearly a decade earlier, had become a grinding, seemingly endless campaign of counterinsurgency. This was not a war of clear front lines, but of sudden, brutal ambushes in remote valleys against a shadowy enemy. Just 3 months earlier, in May 2011, America felt a wave of relief and justice when SEAL Team 6 killed Osama bin Laden. But this triumph came at a cost. The public identification of the unit by political leaders broke with long-standing protocol, turning these anonymous warriors into known targets. For the men on the ground, including Chris Campbell, the threat of retaliation was real and immediate. The war was at its most dangerous, and he was a member of the most hunted unit on the battlefield. Christopher Campbell's journey to the very top of the special operations world began in Jacksonville, North Carolina. This town, located near Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune, has a strong connection to the military, with many residents serving in the armed forces or working in support roles. The local economy relies heavily on the base, which brings in service members from across the country and creates a community where stories of deployments, training, exercises, and veterans' experiences are common in daily conversations. Growing up here meant being surrounded by symbols of service like military vehicles on the roads, families waving goodbye to loved ones heading overseas, and events such as parades or memorials honoring those in uniform. For Campbell, these elements shaped his early views on life. His family background included ties to the military. His father had served, and the household emphasized principles like responsibility, teamwork, and putting others first. These values weren't just talked about, they were lived through community involvement, such as volunteering at base events or supporting local veterans groups. From a young age, Campbell showed an interest in physical challenges, participating in sports like football at his high school, where he learned the importance of endurance and pushing through discomfort. He wasn't the biggest player on the team, but his coaches noted his determination to tackle drills and improve his skills, even when it meant extra practice after school. This environment built in him a sense of duty that felt natural, almost inherited. He wanted a career with purpose, a life of service. By his late teens, he had decided that the Navy offered the right path, specifically the challenge of special operations, which he researched through books and talks with local veterans. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 1996 at the age of 22, after completing the necessary paperwork and physical exams at a recruiting station. The enlistment process involved taking the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, where he scored well in areas like mechanical comprehension, and physical fitness, qualifying him for demanding roles. His motivation was clear. He wanted to push his limits and see if he could meet the standards of the Navy's elite units. Becoming a Navy SEAL wasn't a casual choice. It required committing to a contract that included the option for special warfare training, knowing the dropout rate was high. Upon enlisting on October 11, 1996, he reported for active duty shortly after, starting with boot camp at Naval Training Center Great Lakes in Illinois. There, from November 1996 to February 1997, he went through 8 weeks of basic training, learning Navy customs, seamanship, firefighting, and physical conditioning. Mornings began at 4 a.m. with runs, push-ups, and swims in cold water to build stamina. Instructors drilled recruits on discipline, such as standing at attention for hours or folding uniforms precisely. Campbell adapted to the routine, focusing on each task without complaint, which helped him stand out as reliable. After boot camp, he moved to additional preparatory training at the Fleet Combat Training Center in Dam Neck, Virginia, from February to April 1997, where he studied basic electronics, weapons handling, and small boat operations, skills that would be useful for SEAL candidates. This phase included classroom sessions on navigation and hands-on practice with rifles at the range, ensuring he was ready for the next step. By May 1997, he arrived at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado in California for the real test: Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. The road through basic underwater demolition/SEAL training is designed to do one thing: break men. Over 6 months, it tests every limit of their body and mind, finding the few who truly belong in special operations. The first phase, lasting 7 weeks, focuses on conditioning with runs on soft sand beaches, ocean swims in rough surf, and obstacle courses that include climbing walls, crawling under barbed wire, and carrying heavy logs as a team. Instructors, often veteran SEALs, push candidates to their breaking point with surf torture, where trainees link arms in freezing water for extended periods, or boat cruise, where groups paddle inflatable boats through waves while being yelled at to go faster. Hell Week, the 5th week, is the climax. 5.5 days of continuous activity with only 4 hours of sleep total, involving over 200 miles of running, constant calisthenics, and timed evolutions, like carrying boats overhead for miles. Many quit by ringing the bell in the courtyard, signaling their departure. Chris, however, approached it with a steady mindset. He wasn't the type to shout encouragement or draw attention. Instead, he led by example, maintaining his pace during long runs, even when his muscles burned. When a teammate struggled with a log carry, Campbell would shift positions to take more weight, offering quiet words like, "Keep going, we've got this," without stopping. His resolve came from internal drive. He reminded himself daily of why he enlisted, focusing on small goals like finishing the next swim. Instructors noted his consistency. He never complained about the cold or fatigue, and his scores in timed events, such as the 4-mile run in boots and pants, were solid. The second phase, dive training, involved learning scuba and closed-circuit systems, with pool competency tests where candidates had to handle equipment failures underwater without panicking. Campbell excelled here, his calm nature helping him stay composed during drown-proofing, where hands and feet are tied, and trainees must bob to the surface for air. The third phase covered land warfare, demolitions, marksmanship with rifles like the M4, and patrolling tactics in simulated combat scenarios. Night exercises in the desert tested navigation and stealth. Throughout, team dynamics were key. Failures in group tasks meant extra punishment for all. Campbell's willingness to help others built trust, ensuring his boat crew stuck together. By the end of Bud S in February 1998, He had lost weight but gained resilience, earning his spot among the graduates. After earning his SEAL Trident with Class 221, his career truly began. The Trident ceremony held at Coronado involved pinning the gold eagle anchor and trident insignia on his uniform, symbolizing completion of training. Class 221, starting with over 100 candidates, had only a fraction finish, making the achievement significant. Post-Bud S., Campbell attended jump school at Fort Benning, Georgia in March 1998, learning static line parachuting with jumps from C-130 aircraft, progressing from ground towers to night drops. This qualified him for airborne operations essential for SEAL missions. His first operational assignment was with SEAL Team 5 at Coronado from May 1998 to March 2004. This West Coast team specialized in Pacific theater operations, but also deployed globally. He started as a junior operator, learning ropes from seniors during workups. Intense training cycles, including close quarters battle drills, fast roping from helicopters, and maritime interdiction on ships. Daily routines involve physical training at 5 a.m., followed by skill sessions like shooting at the range or diving in San Diego Bay. As he gained experience, he took on roles in platoons, planning missions and maintaining gear like night vision goggles and suppressors. He deployed multiple times to the front lines in both Iraq and Afghanistan, honing his craft and finding his specialty as a sniper. Deployments began after September 11th, with Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan from 2001 onward. His team conducted direct action raids against Taliban strongholds, often inserting by helicopter into mountainous terrain at night. In Iraq, starting with Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, missions included urban combat in cities like Fallujah, clearing buildings room by room, and securing oil platforms in the Gulf. Each deployment lasted 6 to 9 months, with rotations every 18 months or so. Campbell participated in several, accumulating combat experience that sharpened his tactics. As a sniper, he underwent advanced training at schools like the SEAL Sniper Course, which lasts 3 months and covers ballistics, camouflage, stalking, and long-range shooting with rifles like the MK-13 or SR-25. The course includes classroom math on windage and elevation, followed by field exercises where students crawl hundreds of yards undetected to take shots at 1,000 meters. A SEAL sniper's job involves overwatch during operations, providing precision fire support from hidden positions. This requires setting up hides, camouflage spots in buildings or hills, and waiting hours or days for targets, using spotters for ranging and security. Observation skills mean noting enemy patterns like vehicle movements or guard shifts via binoculars or scopes. Mental discipline is crucial, controlling breathing for steady aim, ignoring discomfort from heat or insects, and making ethical decisions on shots. Campbell's personality fit this. His patience allowed him to stay focused without rushing, and his methodical approach ensured accurate calculations for factors like bullet drop over distance. In combat, he provided cover for assault teams, eliminating threats like machine gunners from afar, saving lives without fanfare. His skill and leadership did not go unnoticed. During deployments, he earned commendations for actions, such as a Bronze Star with Valor for a 2010 raid in Afghanistan, where he led Afghan partners under fire, suppressed enemies, and secured an extraction zone. Superiors recognized his reliability in high-stress situations, recommending him for advanced roles. In 2004, after leaving Team 5, he served at the Naval Special Warfare Advanced Training Detachment in Key West, Florida, from June 2004 to February 2006, instructing others in maritime skills like boat handling and combat swimming. This instructor role honed his leadership, teaching him to mentor juniors effectively. His performance led to an invitation to try out for the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, or Devgru, the official name for SEAL Team 6. Based at Dam Neck, Virginia, Devgru selects from experienced SEALs for Tier 1 missions. The selection process, known as Green Team, lasts 6 to 8 months and is grueling. It starts with physical assessments, timed runs, swims, ruck marches with 50-pound packs, and strength tests like deadlifts. Shooting qualifications demand sub-MOA accuracy under stress, with drills like hostage rescue simulations where missing means failure. Close quarters battle training in kill houses uses live ammo, requiring precise movement in teams. Candidates learn advanced tactics such as breaching doors with explosives, fast roping from Blackhawks, and Halo jumps from 25,000 feet. Psychological evaluations test mental toughness through sleep deprivation and high-pressure scenarios. Only about 50% pass. Campbell navigated this with his proven endurance, excelling in sniper portions and team exercises. Upon completion in February 2006, he joined Devgru's squadrons, rotating through red, blue, gold, or silver. After a grueling selection process, he was welcomed into this elite brotherhood. Induction involved a low-key ceremony, perhaps a handshake from commanders, an assignment to a troop. Devgru operators train constantly at facilities, with mock villages for raids and ranges for specialized weapons, like the HK-416. The unit's culture emphasizes humility and professionalism. No egos, just mission focus. He was now a Tier 1 operator, tasked with undertaking the nation's most sensitive and dangerous missions. These include counterterrorism ops, like hostage rescues or high-value target captures, often in denied areas. Missions might involve infiltrating by submarine, conducting surveillance with drones, or assaulting compounds with night vision. Devgru works with agencies like CIA for Black Ops, requiring secrecy and precision. Campbell continued deploying, contributing to efforts against Al-Qaeda and Taliban leaders. The life of a special operator is one of stark contrasts. While his work took him to the world's most dangerous places, his heart was always at home. The core of that life was his family. His marriage to his wife, Angelina, was the anchor in his turbulent world, a partnership strong enough to withstand the long separations and the constant uncertainty of his profession. He was, by all accounts, a devoted and loving father to his daughter, Lana. The man who faced down the enemy in combat would melt at the sound of his daughter's laugh. When he was home on leave, his world revolved around simple, precious moments. Reading bedtime stories, playing in the backyard, being a husband and a dad. This was the life he was fighting to protect. The promise to be home for his and Angelina's wedding anniversary was not just a date on a calendar. It was a symbol of the peaceful future he was working toward, a future he had earned through years of sacrifice. On the night of August 5th, 2011, an urgent call for help echoed from the Tangi Valley in Wardak Province, Afghanistan, an area long recognized as a stronghold for Taliban fighters due to its challenging terrain of steep mountainsides, narrow passages, and thick cover that allowed insurgents to hide and launch attacks effectively. U.S. Army Rangers from the 75th Ranger Regiment had been deployed there on a night raid, aimed at capturing or eliminating a senior Taliban leader operating from a compound in the valley. But they quickly found themselves outnumbered and under heavy fire from enemies equipped with automatic weapons, grenades, and coordinated ambush tactics. The Rangers, facing mounting casualties and pinned in position, radioed back to their base for reinforcements, describing the situation as critical and requiring immediate backup to to either push back the attackers or enable a safe withdrawal. In response, Christopher Campbell, a seasoned chief special warfare operator from Devgru, better known as SEAL Team 6, and his fellow team members were activated as the Quick Reaction Force, a role they were prepared for with their gear already checked and ready, including rifles, ammunition belts, medical supplies, and night vision equipment suited for close quarters combat in the dark. Campbell, at 36 years old with years of experience in high-stakes operations, joined 16 other SEALs from Gold Squadron, along with Afghan Special Forces partners, a combat dog and its handler, and additional U.S. support personnel, making up a group designed to insert rapidly and provide the needed firepower. They hurried to the helipad at Forward Operating Base Shank, boarding a CH-47 Chinook helicopter designated with the call sign Extortion 17, a workhorse aircraft from the Army National Guard's 7th Battalion, 158th Aviation Regiment, capable of transporting large numbers but built on a design originating from the 1960s with basic upgrades for modern use. The Chinook took off around 2:20 a.m. local time on August 6th, carrying 38 individuals in total, 22 Americans, including the 17 SEALs and 5 crew members, 8 Afghan commandos, and the military working dog, flying low through the blackness of the valleys to minimize radar detection and enemy spotting. As Extortion 17 neared the landing zone, close to the Rangers' embattled position, where gunfire and tracer rounds still lit the sky, a Taliban insurgent on the ground seized the moment and launched a rocket-propelled grenade from an elevated spot, possibly a rooftop or ridge that offered a clear line of sight. The RPG, a portable weapon widely used by militants for its simplicity and effectiveness against low-flying aircraft, struck the helicopter's aft rotor blade with devastating accuracy on the second attempt after an initial miss, causing the rotor to fail immediately and sending the massive machine into an uncontrollable spin toward the valley floor below. The crash was catastrophic. The impact and explosion created a massive fireball. Fuel and ammunition ignited, scattering wreckage across the valley. Amid the twisted metal and debris, everyone aboard was killed instantly. This event stood out as the deadliest single incident for American troops in the Afghanistan conflict, claiming more lives in one moment than any other day of the war, and delivering a severe setback to the Special Operations Forces by eliminating a key segment of one of the military's most elite units. Following the tragedy, the U.S. military's official investigation, overseen by Central Command and involving detailed reviews of flight recordings, witness statements from accompanying Apache helicopter pilots, and examinations of the crash site, determined that the downing resulted from a fortunate hit by the enemy fighter, emphasizing the unpredictable nature of combat in such environments where insurgents could position themselves advantageously without prior intelligence warnings. But for many of the grieving families, this conclusion felt too simple. It didn't explain the sloppy planning or the questionable decisions that made the mission so vulnerable. They were left with doubts and a determination to find the real answers. Leading this push for clarity was Billy Vaughn, father of Aaron Vaughn, one of the SEALs lost that night, who channeled his loss into advocacy by authoring books, organizing public forums, and pressing for governmental inquiries to expose what he and others saw as inconsistencies in the narrative provided by authorities. Among the issues raised was the selection of the helicopter itself, as families questioned why a conventional CH-47D Chinook, with its origins in the Vietnam War era and equipped only with standard defenses like flare dispensers and minimal armor, was chosen for operation in a high-threat zone instead of the more specialized MH-45 MH-47 variant, routinely used by Special Operations Aviation units. The MH-47, flown by the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, incorporates advanced features such as reinforced structures to better resist small arms fire and RPG impacts, sophisticated electronic countermeasures to jam incoming missiles, and enhanced navigation systems for safer low-altitude flights in hostile conditions, all of which could have potentially altered the outcome by providing greater protection or evasion capabilities. Official explanations pointed to logistical constraints, noting that the Night Stalker's MH-47s were engaged in other tasks at the time. But to the families, this decision appeared as a risky compromise that unnecessarily exposed their loved ones to greater danger, especially given the known intensity of Taliban activity in the Tangi Valley and the premium placed on safeguarding Tier 1 operators like those from Devgru. Connected to this concern was the packing of so many elite personnel into one aircraft, with 17 SEAL Team 6 members and additional special operators, totaling nearly 24 of the military's most highly trained assets, crammed aboard Extortion 17, a setup that seemed to ignore established protocols for distributing valuable personnel across multiple transports to prevent a total wipeout from a single mishap. This practice, drawn from hard-learned lessons in prior conflicts where concentrated losses crippled units, aims to preserve operational continuity even if one vehicle is hit. Yet in this case, the urgency of the quick reaction response apparently led to consolidating the force on a single helicopter for faster deployment. Despite briefings where commanders justified it as a necessity driven by the Rangers' dire situation and limited air assets available, the families have found no convincing resolution to why alternatives such as splitting the group between two Chinooks or delaying slightly for better dispersion weren't pursued, amplifying their sense that procedural safeguards were overlooked. Further compounding these doubts was the absence of preparatory air support, a standard measure for insertions into contested landing zones where gunships like the AC-130 Spectre or Apache attack helicopters typically precede the transport to lay down covering fire, targeting enemy positions with cannons, missiles, or machine guns to suppress threats and clear the approach path. In operations over hot areas, this pre-assault bombardment disrupts insurgent movements, forces them into hiding, and reduces the window for attacks on incoming aircraft. But for Extortion 17, no such fire mission was executed despite the presence of two Apaches in the vicinity, which instead focused on supporting the ground fight without sweeping the LZ beforehand. The investigation attributed this to assessments that the zone wasn't sufficiently hot to warrant it, and concerns over civilian structures nearby under rules of engagement designed to minimize collateral damage. But the lack of this protective layer left the Chinook exposed as a large, slow-moving silhouette in the night sky, vulnerable to opportunistic or prepared fire from the ground, a point that families argue reflects inadequate risk evaluation. Tying into these operational questions is the suspicion of a retaliatory motive behind the attack, as the incident unfolded only 3 months after the high-profile raid by SEAL Team 6 that resulted in the death of Osama bin Laden, an event publicly announced by U.S. officials and celebrated globally, but which also heightened threats against the unit, with Taliban spokesmen explicitly promising vengeance through statements and propaganda. Families contend that the precision of the RPG strike wasn't mere chance, but part of a deliberate trap, perhaps facilitated by intelligence leaks or local informants who alerted insurgents to the incoming helicopter carrying special forces, allowing them to position shooters strategically in anticipation of a valuable target. While the Pentagon has steadfastly rejected this theory, maintaining that the shot was opportunistic, amid the chaos of the Ranger engagement and supported by no evidence of prior tipping, the close timing to the bin Laden operation and reports of increased enemy activity in the area have sustained a lingering distrust, with calls for fuller disclosure of classified communications and surveillance data to either confirm or dispel the possibility of targeted revenge. All these issues convinced the families of one thing: they weren't being told the full story. Their grief turned into a long fight for the truth against what felt like a wall of official silence. The impact of Extortion 17 extended far beyond the immediate loss. It severely depleted Devgru's ranks, forcing the unit to scramble to recruit and train new operators. Yet the true lasting mark of Extortion 17 comes from the families. Their persistent efforts transformed private sorrow into public action. Through advocacy groups and public campaigns, they didn't just demand answers, they fought for real changes to prevent another tragedy like this from ever happening again. Christopher Campbell's personal legacy is that of a quiet professional with unwavering integrity. His teammates remember him as a brother who always had their back and a calm leader under fire. His family remembers him as a loving husband and father who fought for a peaceful world he would never get to fully enjoy. He was the embodiment of a quiet professional, one who performed extraordinary missions in the shadows, sought no fame, and whose absolute loyalty was to his team and his family. His story is a heartbreaking reminder of the true cost of war, measured in unkept promises and the emptiness he left behind. While the controversies surrounding his death remain unresolved, his legacy of service, love, and sacrifice endures. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and subscribe so you won't miss out on future uploads. See you next time.